anything else, you cannot allow yourself to be pressured or intimidated. You must stand firm for what your needs are, because no one else out here is going to protect you any better than who? You yourself. Okay? Along those lines, when you're looking at the properties, you don't need to go in there looking for how much you're going to love it. You want to go looking at the property and say, what's wrong with this picture? Look for signs of problems. Now, inside the bags that we gave you is a green sheet of paper. And on that green sheet of paper, you'll see 3 columns. It's a home buyer's checklist. So that when you're going through those properties, you need to look at the properties and put down information to compare each home side by side. So now, one thing I've noticed, as I've gotten older, print seems to be getting smaller. So now that looks small to you, it's okay, it's you. Okay? Take it to Kinko's or to your job, blow it up, make copies, because you want to visit at least 7, 10 to upwards of 15 homes before you make a decision on buying any one property. And how do you keep track of all these homes that you're looking at? You're going to take notes on the home buyer's checklist. So you're going to put down the address of the property, what the asking price is, what are the taxes, okay? What's the condition of the major systems? You're going to do your neighborhood site surveys. All this information is the process that takes the home buying activity out of the role of the emotions and into the role of the internet. I scared it away. I scared it away. She just ran screaming, okay? You want to use all 5 of your senses. You want to use your sight, sound, smell, and yes, even taste and touch when you're buying a home. So you want to smell for foul or musty odors in the basement or attic especially. And a little aside about odors, just so that you understand a little bit. Please know that if there's a very strong or unpleasant odor in a property that you're evaluating for purchase, know this. Many times, just because the occupants leave a property doesn't mean that the odors go with them. Okay? And in some situations, especially where animals have been allowed to use the indoors as their outdoors, you know where I'm going with this? Those odors have saturated not just the carpeting and the padding, but they've actually seeped into the floorboards. And you'll find that an agent or a seller will say, we're going to have the carpet shampooed. Okay? Shampooing a rug that has really horrible, bad, pungent odors is like a 17-year-old boy putting Axe on after gym class. I have one, I know, okay? And I'm selling them cheap, okay? So what does that do? It masks it for about what, 15 minutes? First heavy bad rainstorm where it gets damp, what's going to happen? Smells are going to come back. Did you have a question, ma'am? Okay, so make sure that when you're looking at properties, you take into consideration all these aspects. And be prepared and be planning to ask for negotiations with regard to these problems that you identify. You want to look for doors that do not close smoothly or completely and don't lock securely. If the doors don't close properly, it could be an indication of unusual foundation settlement, which caused the doors to be off of their alignment. It's also sometimes an indication of moisture, especially basement doors where the wood has swollen in the doors and they can't shut. Now, obviously, it's a safety problem if the doors don't close properly, but now you're being given an indication that this should be a red flag of a higher problem. And so you need to put these on your notes of things that you're seeing in these properties. You want to look for sagging or creaking stairs, or stairs that do not have handrails. These are things that the stairs, especially basement stairs again, are particularly spongy or racking back and forth, that these are problems that might be an indication of a structural concern, a moisture concern, or with basement steps, many times it's an indication of damage at the basement stringers caused by the T word, termites. Okay? They love basement stair wood because basements are usually damp. And damp wood is like wine with dinner for a termite. Okay, it makes it even more attractive. So look for these problems. Windows do not open or close smoothly and don't lock securely. Oh, and by the way, look for windows that do not stay open without the benefit of a Coke bottle. When you walk up to the window, lift it up, what should happen? It should stay up. I know, really it should. And I'm not just talking about windows that don't stay up. I'm talking about boarded up, nailed shut, glued shut, painted shut. Anything that's covering a window that makes it inaccessible, cracked panes of glass, broken locks, all of these things are concerns that you need to have, red flags that should be raised for you. Why? Because in this program, these things that I'm pointing out, plus a whole lot of other possible concerns, will be considered unsatisfactory items in the home inspection. And those things that are considered unsatisfactory in the home inspection process will be required to be corrected prior to closing. So, if you see a whole grocery list of things that you identify as problems, you can help forestall getting a real bad shock when you ask the seller, I want to know, I found this, and this wrong with this property. Are you willing to do these repairs plus anything else my inspector finds? Because if you're not, I can't buy this home with the loan program I'm qualifying for. Now, why do you want to ask that now? Why do you want to find that out now? Before you put the offer? Because of this. You cannot get the home inspection until after you have given a deposit. And here's the rule of real estate. Be slow to give your money because it will be slow coming back. So when you put a deposit down on a property, they cash your check. And we're talking $500, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000, whatever that amount is that they want to have to represent your good faith intention to buy the home, they will keep that money until they allow you to withdraw the offer, until they allow you to be released from the transaction, and then you get your cash back. So isn't it better to find out before you put the offer on the home that the seller has no intention of fixing anything? Because if it is, then you can move on to house number 2. And what do I mean by house number 2? If you look on that paper I gave you, the Homebuyer checklist, you'll see there's columns for you to put information about 3 different homes. That's because I don't want you to narrow your home buying selection down to any fewer than 3 homes. You should have your first choice that you really would like to have, your second choice that for any reason the first choice does not stay available for you, you can go to that house, or the third choice. And in this way, if your first choice home becomes unavailable for whatever reason, you don't have to reinvent the process. You can simply move on to door number 2. And also having that in the back of your mind, that if this seller says something I don't like, I'll just go on to the other house, gives you a sense of power that prevents you from being led around by the nose by other parties in the transaction. Does everybody know where I'm going with this? Anybody awake? So, make sure you don't narrow your selection down to fewer than 3 homes. So when you say to that seller, you're going to have to fix this. I see some 3 broken windows here, and I know the inspector is going to call for them to be replaced, plus whatever else they find. Are you going to fix that? The seller says, well, I don't have any money. I'm not planning on fixing anything. Well, if they're not fixing anything, what are you not getting? The grant. So it's time to move on to house number 2. Okay? And you see, you found this information out before A, you put down a deposit, so you don't have to wait to get money back, and B, before you paid for a home inspection. So this is why I'm here telling you these things today. You want to look for water stains on the ceiling or walls, or the appearance of fresh repainting. You want to look for signs that something has happened that someone's tried to fix, and then you want to ask questions. How many here have a digital camera? Those of you who don't, how many of you know that you can buy a digital camera from Walgreens for $20? She knew. So you're going to go get one tomorrow, aren't you? Okay? You need to keep a visual record of what you're looking at. Because on any given Sunday, an agent's going to take you out to look at 10, 12, 15 homes. You're not going to remember what you saw from the first house to the 15th. And you're going to be sitting at your kitchen table scratching your head saying, okay, now let me see. Which house had the oil heater and which house had the gas heater? You're not going to remember. So you take notes and you take pictures, because a picture speaks 1,000 words. When our company does the home inspection for you, we're going to take and do a complete digital photo journal of every single thing that we see in the property, pinpointing those things that are unsatisfactory, so that when you go back to the seller and say, this needs to be fixed, this needs to be fixed, you've got documentation. Because the sellers will invariably say, oh, that's a new roof. I got a new roof up there. I don't know which roof you put it on, but it's not up there today. Okay, so find that roof, because it's not the one you have under this house. Okay, that's what you need to be able to prove with the documentation of the photos. Okay, so look for problems and document what you see. When you look at properties, don't start your assessment of the home from inside the front door. You need to start the moment you get out your car. All senses go. You need to be looking at the concrete that's around the exterior. Is it broken or upheaved? Because that's going to be a failure because it's a tripping hazard. Are there trees rubbing up against the siding or rubbing up against the roof? That will be a failure because it can damage the siding or damage the roofing system. Are the gutters there? Are they properly attached? Are the steps present and handrails present? What's the situation with the exterior of the property? Look around the community. Are there boarded up homes? Are there abandoned properties? All right, what is the condition of the community? That affects appraisability. Get yourself in tune to what's going on before you put that offer in. And when you're inside the property, look up. Everybody, humans being, our natural tendency is to look eye level and down. Start training yourself to look up, okay? Look for signs of stains on the ceiling or walls, okay? Look for signs of cracking and ask questions. And if the seller's not available to ask, you take notes and give them to your agent and say, please get answers to these questions from the other side. I'll be able to make an offer when I get these answers. I'll wait, okay? The quickness of that response from those questions will determine how motivated are they to get you into this property, okay? If they take forever to come back or they don't answer the questions at all, this may be a seller who is not really working towards your ends, okay? And a side point about situations like drop ceilings and other structures in a property, a home inspection, when we do the home inspections, we are limited to what is visually accessible at the time of the inspection. So what that means is, if there is a drop ceiling, we're not allowed to move those ceiling tiles. We're limited to what we can actually access right there from standing on the floor. That's your ceiling, that's what we inspect. If there's paneling on the walls, if there's lots of belongings in cluttered conditions, we don't move furniture. We will inspect what we can access. So if you find a situation that you're concerned about what's going on above it, behind it, or below it, you want to make notes to ask that seller when they've accepted your offer to make that area accessible for your inspector to see. So if you have a drop ceiling in the home and you're planning on removing that and restoring it to a sheetrock or drywall ceiling, and you want to see what it looks like now to see how much work you're having to put up against, you can say to the seller, please remove a representative number of tiles from each room to allow my inspector to look up there. Yes, ma'am?
Does the seller have to show proof how old the roof is or if there is repairs?
Does the seller have to show proof of how old the roof is or have there been any repairs? They don't have to do anything. But if the seller is saying, I have a brand new roof, I'm not going to believe it unless I see paperwork. Okay? So if they don't have that paperwork, then you'll need to rely upon the evaluation conducted by your home inspector. Okay? The seller doesn't have to have any records at all. It's a nice thing if they can provide it, but it's not a requirement. Okay? What the seller will be required to do is complete a seller's disclosure statement, where they give their personal information about the condition of the property. Now, that disclosure statement is just that, their personal opinion. It may not be based in fact. Here's a textbook example. I own a property with my husband for the past 50 years. I've been a lovely housewife, took care of everything inside those four walls, never had to do anything with repairs. My husband took care of all that. I have no knowledge of any problems with the roofing, no knowledge of any problem with leaking in the plumbing, and no knowledge of any problem with the heating system. My husband died 2 years ago. He's the one who handled all that activity. Am I lying when I say I have no knowledge of any problem with the heating and plumbing and roofing? Is that necessarily a true assessment of the system? No. So don't put so much weight on the information in the disclosure because it is merely an opinion voiced by the seller. Now, if the seller says it is a brand new roof installed in 2008 and they don't provide paperwork and we go up there and find that that is a 10-year-old roof and there's no way around it, then you can go back to the seller and say, is this misrepresentation, is this misinformation, or is there some sort of a problem with the situation? And it has happened where a roofer has re-roofed the wrong house. Okay? So it did happen where it was not the seller lying, they had no idea that someone had re-roofed the wrong house. And that's why the roofers that I recommend take digital photos when they're done to show what they've done to your house. Okay? So please make sure you get that information. When you're looking at properties, make sure all utilities are on. When we do the home inspection, we will not be able to inspect the property for the program that you're in if the utilities, all utilities of heat, water, and electric are not on in the home. So what I mean by that is this. When you're looking at properties, you want to make sure they're on for you. Why put an offer on a property where you can't even yourself test the systems? That's like buying a used car without turning on the ignition. You don't know what you're getting. So when you go into the bathrooms, you're going to turn the water on at the sink, you're going to turn the water on at the tub, and then what are you going to do? Flush the toilet. Okay, everybody knows that answer. Why? For checking the water pressure. You're also checking the flow and the consistency. In addition to doing that, what the home inspector does to take it to the next level, we actually will be running the water at the lowest level of the home while we're operating the faucets and fixtures at the highest level of the property at the same time. I'm not recommending you to do that. That would irritate a seller. Leave that to the professionals. But when we do that because there are some situations where people only wash their clothes once a week because it takes 4 days to fill the washing machine. Okay? And that's because of restricted water flow. Now, if the water pressure at the sink and the tub shut down to 0 or practically nothing when you flush that toilet, it's an indication that there's an obstruction in the water lines, either going up to the second floor or coming in from the city main. Now, here's what happens, and this happens a lot. You're turning the water on and you're flushing the toilet, and you've gone through this home for about 20 minutes and you haven't seen anybody. All of a sudden, out pops a seller from behind a wall. And he says to you, oh, the water pressure's like that in all the homes on the block. It's not just us, it's everybody. This is the way it's supposed to be. Okay? At that point, you can tell the seller, congratulations. Because guess what? This is your lucky day. Because you only have to fix this house, you don't have to fix the rest of the house on the block. Because it is not a neighborhood condition. The city and the municipalities have 6-inch mains with plenty of water flowing through them. If it's not getting into your faucets and fixtures, it's a problem in that house. So know that the inspector will find fault with that, and in many times in cases, it can be as high as a $3,000 repair cost if it's required to dig up the water line out to the street. Okay, so please be mindful of that. Major appliances. These again are things that the home inspector is going to look at and evaluate on your behalf. When you're looking at the properties, this is an example of a brand new heating system, a brand new central air conditioning system, and a hot water heater tank with a proper PVC plastic drain line extending down to 6 inches off of the floor. And as I said, I'm going to send you copies of all this so you can review these things. I want you to understand, how many here know what type of heat they have in their present home? Oh no, everyone's afraid that, everyone thinks this is the trick question, so they're not raising their hand. Okay, what kind of heat do you have?
Electric.
Wrong. Who else has and who else thinks they know? What kind of heat do you have? Wrong. She said she had electric heat, he said he had oil heat. Who wants to take another stab at it? Gas. He said gas. Wrong. You have just named the fuel sources. There are 2 types of heat. There is heat that comes into the room through ductwork, which is warm air. And there is heat that's supplied through iron radiators up against the wall, which is a boiler system. So now that you've had that little nickel knowledge, do you now know what kind of heat you have?
Radiator.
Okay, there you go. You have water and you have radiators, okay? Because if you think about it, you can have an oil-fired radiator, you can have an electric-fired warm air system, and you can have a gas-fired boiler or radiator system. So when you're going and looking at properties, you now know what type of heat you're going to ask them when they say, what kind of heating system do you have? I have warm air, I have radiators, I have boiler. And if you are looking at a property that does not have central air conditioning in the property, you're going to be able to know whether or not it will be easy to convert it to central air by one thing. If it's a warm air system, yes. If it's a radiator, probably not, and if so, it'll be expensive, because there is no ductwork to let the cool air come in. So, now you understand what you're looking at in heating systems. If you are looking at a heating system that looks like this here, know that we're going to find problems with it. Okay? Now yes, this was actually in a home that we did an inspection on. This is an oil-fired boiler, and guess what? They even have provided the convenience of a bucket. to catch the leaks. That came with the manufacturer, you know, okay, that bucket, okay. So, and in the back corner, what do we have there? Our 20-year-old water tank, right? Okay. What I'm showing you here is this, and what you need to understand about major appliances is this. When I inspected this heater, yes, there was a small leak coming from a water line up there that was being captured in this bucket. Apart from that, that 45-year-old heater worked exactly like it was supposed to. There wasn't a single thing wrong with it. Did it have a 72% efficiency rating? Yeah. Which means what? 28% of the heat was going where? Out the chimney. Okay? Heaters nowadays have a 90+ efficiency rating. Okay? Can we call for replacement of a working heater just because it's old? No. In a home inspection report, if the system is functional, but it is at or beyond its life expectancy, the best we can say is that the appliance is marginal. And when we're saying that it's marginal, we're telling you that this is something that you need to budget for repair or replacement within the next 1 to 2 years. Don't hold your breath. Now, as a home inspector and in this program that you're involved in, the only elements that can be asked for as part of the negotiation are those things that are actually defective at the time of the inspection and are considered unsatisfactory. And even then, it's a short list.